least. A busy session there, changeable conditions. Representative, though, you'd have to say, of this afternoon and tomorrow. So quite a useful one. I mean, what did you gain from it?
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, the tracks, where they've resurfaced, it's very, very slippy, and you can see it's all about trying to get the tyres into the right window. So trying to get the temperature, then the track dries out. It's trying not to kill the wet tyre. So it could be a really fascinating qualifying of just getting that timing just right.
How much of a session like that is just the driver getting used to the conditions? I mean, what can you do? What can your engineers do to help with setup and stuff like that?
Well, of course, you can play with the wing balance, you can play with the mechanical settings, and I think what you want to be able to do is to give a car that doesn't do anything nasty, that inspires confidence, that they can predict and they can read, and you know, what we see with Max, he's able to get to that point very, very quickly, and you can see with Checo, you know, after a lap or two, he gets that feeling, and that's the most important thing, I think, for any driver, particularly a track like this. You want it to be predictable.
How important was it to get those laps in the bag before qualifying? Are you expecting these kind of conditions for that session as well?
I think it was very useful, particularly with the surface that it's been, I think, Sector 1 and Sector 3 that's been resurfaced. I think just for the drivers to get their references, to get where the grip is, where it isn't, for the engineers to get a bit of knowledge about the tyres, what the prep needs to be. So yeah, it was a useful session, because I think there's more of this to come.
And Russell managed to get in there in P2 today in that session, albeit with a drying track. Who's your main threat, though, for qualifying? How impressed were you with the McLarens over a single lap?
I mean, they faded in the session, but they looked very quick at certain points, and it's impossible to tell. I think Mercedes have strapped every bit of downforce they have on the car, so they're running, you know, sort of Monaco levels of downforce. And of course, you've got to think not only about today, but also about tomorrow if it were to be a dry race. So it's finding that balance, but grid position here is very important.
We saw the car spend a long time in the pits, in the garage, during the wettest part, when it didn't look quite as dominant as it was at the end. What was going on there? Just set up adjustments?
Just adjustments, waiting to see where, you know, which way the track was going. At one point, it was a bit too wet for inters, and the last thing you want to be doing is having to repair the thing just before quali. So it's sort of trying to pick your moments where you can learn as much as you can and give the drivers a bit of a feel as well.
And can you give us any more on Daniel Ricciardo's recovery? We know he's out for the rest of the weekend. Have you been given an indication how long the recovery process will take?
Well, these guys, you know, we see it in MotoGP. You know, they bounce back pretty quick. So he's headed off today to Barcelona. They may even have a little operation on him tomorrow to just tidy up where that brake is. It's quite a clean brake. And then, of course, it's all about the recuperation and how long that takes. Any normal human being would probably be about 10 to 12 weeks, but you know, we know that these guys aren't normal. So it'll all be about the recovery process, how long that will take. You know, is it going to be 3 weeks? Is it a month? Is it 6 weeks? Nobody really knows.
I guess the problem is these races are coming thick and fast now, and he wants to be able to get them under his belt as part of his comeback to Formula One.
Yeah, I think that's the thing he was most frustrated about talking with him last night, was that he'd just taken a bunch of time off, just got his mojo back, getting him back into it, and now he's on the bench again. So that was, I think, his frustration. I think he felt that the car, you know, they've started to make some progress, and yeah, you know, it's a shame for him, but I'm sure at the back of his mind he's probably got Singapore as a target. But then again, Singapore's probably one of the most toughest
physical
circuits on the calendar. But you know, nature will take its course.
You obviously most of your focus is on Max, Red Bull, but out of the corner of your eye, did you see, or can you comment on your impressions of Liam Lawson's efforts in the
Yeah, I mean, look, difficult circumstances for him. I mean, focus isn't just on Max; it's also on Checo as well.
Of course.
But you know, Liam, I mean, wow, that's a tricky scenario. I think you had it once where you get dumped in, not even a dry track, you know, horrible conditions, a slippy circuit, a track that bites if you make a mistake. And you know, he looked pretty wide-eyed last night, but I have to say, I think he's done a pretty mature job so far, and it's just seat time. He just needs more, you know, more time in the seat, and it'll be unfair to judge him, I think, in this quali.
Definitely, yeah. In terms of lap times, I'm really not judging him at all there. I've said just to approach it in a professional way. But from your side, I know he's not in your team, but he's one of your drivers at Red Bull. What's the advice been? What has advice come his way from you or Helmut?
Yeah, look, I spoke with him last night. I said, look, just feel your way into it, and try not to put too much, pressure on yourself. And I think that, what we've seen with him, he did a very good job for us in Abu Dhabi in free practice last year. He's versatile. He's jumped into DTM cars and been quick and a winner. He's won in F3. He's won in F2. He's a very versatile. He's a pretty hard driver, and I think he'll find his feet. And I think he'll do just fine. Given a little bit of time.
And bringing it back to Max and Checo, how are you feeling kind of going into qualifying? And when you look around and recognise the level of support that he has here, it's quite remarkable, isn't it?
Well, it's nuts. It takes it to a whole new level. And I think, Max is just trying to keep his head down and keep focused on the weekend. And, whilst there's a huge amount of expectation and pressure on him, but he's just sticking to the same process, to the same routine that we always have. And of course it's all going to be about trying to read the conditions and be on the track at the right time, in these quali sessions.
And this qualifying is a very important one, isn't it? Because overtaking is not easy at a circuit like this, so tight and twisty.
It's a little bit like Budapest around here. I mean, quali is important, and I think that it's a matter of coming through the different rounds, reading the conditions, making sure you're on the track at the right time. And what we were seeing, in that session, it takes a few laps for these intermediates to get up to temperature. So I think you'll see cars, if it is wet, doing lots of laps, and then inevitably there's going to be potentially yellow flags and red flags. So it's a few obstacles.
Great stuff. Thank you for your time. All the best today. Go and keep warm. And talking of clothing, they say if you dress for it, you can achieve anything in life. Well, Lewis Hamilton has given us a decent